Morning. What's going on? Did everybody survive the 1 day bear market of 2021? It looked nasty for 2 seconds at the open, but as always, the market bails us out a little bit. We had a really nasty open, but the plan yesterday was, because we were on day 4 of a gap down to kind of long the open. I was surprised that we went up the whole day. My thinking was we'd probably fade back a little bit, in the afternoon, but we did a little bit, but not much. It's really incredible. I mean, it's anytime you get a multi-day pullback and then you get a gap down at the open, you almost have to blindly. I mean, you got to wait for a little bit of intraday setup, but like we long like Fubo and some of the stuff at the open. I mean, you almost, as soon as it starts to hold at like some level of support, I mean, you almost have to just kind of, I wouldn't say close your eyes, but as soon as it starts to hold, I mean, you just have to pull the trigger and then, use like a 50-cent stop or something, and you just go for it. It's really the only way to play, because by the time you hit the red to green marks, like on a lot of the names, right, the gap will have filled and then you don't have as much upside. So like, you have some, when you do these kind of bounce plays, like you see, like by the time they go red to green, if they gap down too much, then you're just left with nothing. So you have to be a little bit careful, and try to find the ones that'll like bounce right away. I find that bounce trades are, I mean, they're the trickiest type of stock to trade, because, a lot of like what we do is based on momentum and patterns and supports. And this is always a little bit more tricky. So yesterday was a little bit of a grind. Like after that first initial push, I mean, you really kind of sat around, and that's how it happens when you get those kind of bounce days. You get like 1 hour of like really hot bounce, and then there's a lot more like kind of grinding and things that go on. So we'll just have to kind of be mindful of the fact that just because we reverse back doesn't mean we're necessarily out of the woods. We may have never even been in the woods. So we've got a flat open on the QQQs. We have small gap up about 1% into IWM. Now the IWM's in a more tricky spot now, because this, if it opened weak or flat, we would have had a lot more upside. This 1% gap up, once you kind of run into these MAs here, you've retraced probably about half the pull. So you can see from here to here, right? Like once you get into this zone, you kind of retraced already half the drop. So the easy bounce is over. Now you start to roll into levels of congestion. So there's a chance, at least in smaller cap to mid cap names, which is more of what the Russell 2000 is, primarily actually more mid cap than anything. You may have some afternoon choppiness due to, number one, it's summertime, and then number two, you're going to be right back into that kind of zone of resistance. So we'll have to just be super careful and trade around it. It's much easier to trade when you're, just running up your moving averages and you're trending, because you don't have to look at the market. Now that you're stuck in this kind of big gelatinous range, the amount of time you have to spend dancing around potholes is a lot more. So just kind of be mindful of these things as we go, that there's easy kind of times to kind of dump into some names, and there's more tough times. Let's take a look and see what's going on. Okay, this aggro. I feel like that's a derogatory name for people, isn't it? Somebody could say, like, I've heard this before. What does that mean? You're so aggro. Man, you guys love Apple, huh? This is probably, this could be a tricky one. Agroforce, growing systems. Get all of your weed needs from me. Not the actual smoking, but the chemicals. I think this is probably no small caps on Fridays. Pass. Stamps.com agrees to takeover by Tommy Bravo. Who's Tommy Bravo? This guy sounds like a cool dude. Dude, how awesome would that be if your name is Tommy Bravo? Like, my name is Kunal Desai, right? Like half the guys in my chat room's name is like Pragnesh Patel, Suresh Duryodhan. Right? Like this guy's name is Tommy fucking Bravo. Dude, you're getting laid. You're getting laid. Like this guy's a legend. We don't even know who Tommy Bravo is, but you know he's just living a legendary life. So this is a buyout. There's nothing you can do about it. Carve. This would be a heartbreaker today. You know, this kind of stock on a Friday, it can go either way. Pass. No small caps on Fridays. We may have broke the rule yesterday slightly or last week, but we didn't want to. Hey, this this is something like if you see this, like this is something that actually might take a little bit of a bounce. That's a 7% gap, so you can't chase it up. That's usually like this. Usually, this when this pulls back really hard into these MAs, that can be a bouncer. But it's up 7%. I wouldn't hold your breath on that. But let's add that to the list for now. I didn't even see any news on it. MRNN. This is another one. Like this is a Friday. I mean, if these guys are smart, they'll do a midday dilution. If they'll do a midday dilution and just raise paper. You know, this is probably like with all the volume this stock does, I'd be selling off paper, diluting and screwing over shareholders nonstop. If I was AMC, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be selling 200 million a day. I'd run a big ATM and just be selling, pay myself. These people are stupid. You know, this is like a once in a lifetime pump for them. This is probably, you're on support. Like you may get some action on this. You know, if you can start to clear this kind of like 20 zone. But in general, no small caps on Friday. QFIN. Hey, so these Chinese stocks have pulled back a lot, but there's some news that, you know, there's some app pulls and stuff like that. So I don't think they're going to be, in play they're in play, but they're going to be trickier to play. Pitney Bowes maintains blah, blah, blah. You know, this is the kind of basey stock, you know, like that's been like getting moved around lately. Pitney Bowes, right? Like, so it's like a, you know, well-known company, but like the market cap is not huge. And so what happens is like these kind of stocks, I think FEYE is another one. These kind of stocks, like when they build out these base, because they already have like a little bit of a name brand, at some point, like something like this, like actually might get juiced. Now, it doesn't have any liquidity on it. You're talking about 80,000 shares so far. It'll probably get into the millions, you know, before lunch. But in general, that might be, I don't think it has enough liquidity for us. I mean, that's probably something that you would want to run. It's probably something you'd want to run like in lunchtime-ish, you know, and see what's going on. Yeah, so I would run like a percentage change scan from the open. So do like, you know, once about 15 to 30 minutes into the market, do percentage change from open scan. And I would run this at like 9:45, 10. That way it'll take out the stocks that just gap, but you'll have things that are actually moving up and down from the open, and see if like something like this has still got the heat on it, you know, if it's actually moving around, because it doesn't have any liquidity right now. But I suspect there's something like this at some point, some enterprising young man's going to be all up in it. Alf Nation, you know what? This is actually another stock that like it's got an okay chart, but you can see these tails. It's getting sold off onto these spikes right now. So this may need like a lot more time to digest. You know, it can always go because, you know, after it goes, like the chart will look a lot better. But in general, no. See this EDU, this probably looks like a 0. T-Grace. So you got a little bit of a pop in Chinese names right now, but they're all, yesterday was kind of the easy bounce on them, and it wasn't even easy. I think now like some of these will like really fart around a little bit. General Motors. Wedbush. This can't be moving off a fucking Wedbush upgrade, can it? Wedbush is the biggest hacks around. Even I know that. What do you think? Pass. I think out of those two, like your Ford looks better because you've got a big pull into your MAs here, and you got a green candle to hold. if these things go, like you may see a little bit of running, autos, this is actually looks a lot better, right? So you got like nice, easy pullback. To me, that looks like a swing trade, but you probably can actually day trade this. If you do, you'll just have to, if you day trade it, you're going to have to trade it with like 10,000 shares, but well, whatever. So you got an easy go lucky pullback here. I didn't see any news on it, but it looks like you got, for China sales, blah, blah, blah. It could work. We'll keep an eye on it because it's a thick stock. You'll have to let it pull back at the open. But like if it starts to grind, I think that's in a good spot. I'd actually add it to the list. We'll just have to trade it with some size. CHPT, junk. All right, let's talk about the regular watch list. I'm just going to go from phase to not phase, and then, we'll look at some of the stuff that you guys are doing. All right. Cool. All right, let's go into this. So this is kind of, I want to say order of importance, but these are in equal of importance. I think we roll with Spaceballs today. This bucked everything yesterday, and it was clean. Like, notice how it was pulling around. It was working off its EMAs. It was actually moving clean. I believe Homeboy's going up into fucking space in like a couple days. How cool is that, though? Like, you're so loaded, like you make your own space company so that you can get up there. That's pretty cool. Especially you gotta be like 70 years old. Man, that's a nice move. I keep an eye on this. It's opening down $1 a week. If it goes red to green and if it can maintain over, yesterday's highs, I think that's going to be, I think we roll with that. This coin had a nice pull and then it completely rebounded. I think that, we can count that as an inside day, a very loose inside day, but an inside day nonetheless. I have a feeling this one's bottomed out and we're going to have, some action off this area. It may need to tighten up a slight bit, but this stock has enough range where it can get going. So I do like the overall look of this. I think that's, probably number 2. TTD, I'm liking the look on this one. That's number 3. And then we've got ourselves Docu, right? Docu's a daily trader at this point, but I do like the overall look of it. I think if it kind of takes out this 293, right? You've got this is a 30-minute chart. You got yourself a nice location over there. And then not AVXL, NTLA. Man, this had a beautiful bounce yesterday. So it gapped out, it ripped. So you can see like this stock went from 74 to 200. You had an easygoing pullback into the 9 EMA. You're starting to hold there. Now, this stock does trade with a little bit of a spread, so you got to be careful, especially on a Friday. Those bids get pulled, but in general, this has got a good look to it overall. I think we add that in. NIO held at the 200 SMA also. Like if all this EV stuff is happening and like Ford's going, GM's going, probably what we want to go with, NIO and XPEV and some of these and keep a couple of these on the list in case there's a broad base, just Friday guerrilla rampage on these things. You never know. I think that's going to be another one. And then I think this Fubo's had enough pullback here. If the IWM holds, then we can roll with this one too. My gut feeling is, though, we want to probably stick with some of the larger names because that IWM's in that weird sweet spot where, you may get one shred at the open and then it kind of fades off. So just kind of be a little bit mindful of that. We have to be more cognizant of what's happening in the general market than normal because there's all these cross currents happening, right? Where the NASDAQ looks really good, but the small caps are dumping. And you also have a deterioration in market breadth. So what I mean by deterioration in market breadth is like, if we're looking at the T210 indicator, this is percentage stocks above its 40 PMA. So this is a market breadth indicator from TC2000. What it's telling you is how many stocks, percentage of stocks in the known universe of TC2000 are hanging out over its major moving average. So you're at 34%. So what is that telling you? That a majority of stocks are actually not at breakout. So you would think, right, with the NASDAQ up, right, so high, that a majority of stocks would also be ready to break out. But that's not the case. If you look at two different ways of looking at market breadth, you can look at the T2108, that's just your quickest way, or you can track breakouts versus breakdowns. So like we use, right, two scans, top loser scan, liquid gainer scan. So at the end of the night, you can put on a spreadsheet, you can put on a sticky note, you track how many stocks show up on your liquid gainer scan versus how many stocks show up on your top loser scan. If the top loser scan is showing more losers than the green one, which is your liquid gainer scan, especially if it's like 2-to-1, 3-to-1, it's telling you underneath the hood of the market's in a shitter. And, yeah, you may hear like one stock going or this or that, but it's telling you underneath the scenes of the market that the market is actually not doing so hot. And so this is like telling us, right, at 35%, like there's not very much broad-based participation in the market. Most of the market is moving off, right? Amazon and NVIDIA, so you got these like kind of mega cap companies that are lifting up the market. But, otherwise we have a majority of them are really not doing anything. And so that's something to keep in the back of your mind when you're looking at how to manage risk, also how to allocate resources, where to put your time and attention. Every day when you trade the market, it can't just be, okay, I have stocks on my list and then I just trade them, right? Like you do have to think about bigger picture things of, should these stocks be on my list, right? If I have a stock on my list that I like, will the pattern actually follow through? Patterns are just patterns, but there's times they work and times they don't. So like you may read a trading book or take some class or be in some 22-year-old pimply face kid's Discord room, and he's like, this is hot. And it may be certain times of the year, but there's other times of year, what looks hot is actually the short spot. And so you do have to know, right, your internal market structure of how market breadth works, breakouts versus breakdowns, number of stocks above their major moving averages, along with what's happening in the index. That's the easiest way to know, okay, I need to be more loaded in these type of stocks versus that type of stocks. I need to do these type of patterns versus that type of patterns. That's why, like when we teach class, I teach so many patterns. You have, what do we have, like 18, 19 patterns of different things. And it's like, a lot of people say like, well, you really only need to learn one pattern. And it's like, sure. But one pattern only shows up like in one phase of the market. There's 4 phases of the market. So yeah, like when the market's hot, you can just kind of do the same thing over and over. But when the market's not hot, you can't. So those are always things that, you guys just got to be super mindful of. We've seen this. I was talking to Alexi yesterday. We met up for beers. He's one of my mentorship kids, the guy in our chat room. And like, we were looking at like flat top breakouts, right? That's like one of the first patterns that we trade. And like his fucking, like he took so many good ones and like none of them worked out. And we're like, oh, why? Right? Because the market breadth has been deteriorating. That specific type of pattern really does get sold off, except in very, very specific instances. So there's a time and place to use everything. So just kind of keep that in your back of your mind. Sometimes we want to just shred, but there's a time to shred and a time to unshred. So let's just go back into this. We got our EVs. We got Docu. I would still even roll with the Crowdzilla. We got Fubolicious. Good. TTD. Yes. You may even roll in like with maybe a little JKS or something if you want to just day trade that back and forth. I prefer coin. I think this one's got a nice, that's probably the best chart we have. Yeah, I think coin's at a good stock. You know what? Roku had an incredible bounce yesterday. I think this one will probably start drifting back, the other way too. Let me see what you guys are all watching here, brothers and sisters. Hey, Albert, what's going on? Snow? Hey, you know what? I would be down with snow if it gets over this kind of zone over here. I am worried that's kind of grinding into it, but it's not necessarily extended. It's just grinding into it. It is a little bit of a tricky trader due to the lack of liquidity, but that's a legit setup. I'm going to set an alert here. myself, if it starts to push near it, I may take a gander at that too, brother. Hey, Nene, what's going on? You know, no Nene. You know, no Nene. My man. Yo, the CHPT. So this is the type of pullback trade that I would normally get apart. The big portion of it is just going to be like, if that type of stock can move today, meaning was yesterday a one-off thing, or, do we have some continuation? I do think that you have a good RR there in terms of like upside right down to risk. I think that you got a nice spot over there. Somebody asked about FEYE. Hey, I do think FEYE at some point is gonna, get going. It's a weird looking stock because you don't have any clean levels on it. But I think that with all the cyber security, ransomware kind of stuff that's going on, at some point, this is going to get moved around. At some point, Mr. Terry, how are you, sir? Long time no see. What's going on in the dirty? I would keep that on your watch list. This may be something you tuck into your IRA and don't look at it for a while, like especially if it breaks, put a stop at $20. Marvin, Starvin Marvin, my man. CCL. So that's a stock sitting on support too. It doesn't have very good momentum. These cruisers are shitty to trade in general, but like I think out of a swing trade type of setup, that could work. It just doesn't make a very good day trader. Couple things to be mindful of, right? I mean, you're hearing all this thing of Delta variants and stuff like that. I mean, if that thing gets loose, they start canceling these cruise lines again, they won't survive a second cancellation. At that point, everybody will be done with cruises for life. Hey, Alec, you know what? I was looking at Alex. The liquidity's dried up a little bit, which it should as it's consolidating. You still got a few million? Yeah, I would roll with that. I'm going to steal that too. Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to steal that too. Good eye, brother. Add Alec to the list, my friends. I'd add Alec. Good. Naya, Roku, Fubo, Baidu, EHF, Alec, Coin, the Docu. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Yeah, let's just see if we got. Let me see if we got any little dumpers happening here. It's not been a good market for doing like ORB shorts and stuff. The better play on shorts has been shorting like kind of parabolics, but I mean that's like a stressful trade to do on a Friday. Look at this fucking pump and dump. Boop. That just ain't right. That ain't right. Don't be victims, people. No small caps on Fridays. Don't be a victim. Except for Mox. Mox. We've had so much fun with Mox. Plus, Johnny Moxon is an American hero. Johnny Moxon's a legend. Johnny Moxon was Tom Brady before there was Tom Brady. Johnny Moxon's QB1 now. Johnny Moxon's not just a person, but a legend. For that, we may add, I think we add it. Yeah, we got it. We might take a gander at this. The chart's hot. I mean, there's no getting around it. The chart is hot. Hey, TC 2000, guys, was in the dumper yesterday. It was not working right. Make sure like you have your broker. Just fill out your MAs and some stuff. Just keep a couple basic charts just in case TC 2000 wants to play little games with us today. They want to play a little peekaboo. TC 1000 wants to play a little peekaboo game with us. We'll play it back with them. But in general, the charts, I think they went out for like 10, 15 minutes into the close yesterday. So let's, keep your broker charts. Keep like 2 of them up, like filled out just in case you need them. I think we'll be good to go. It's Friday. all summer, it's been what? Hot in the morning, slow in the afternoon. Hot in the morning, slow in the afternoon. Trade accordingly. Carve man is going to be a heartbreaker, I think. Not my thing. No small caps on Fridays. Unless you want to just lose your dignity. There's nothing worse than losing on a Friday. But it does look, it's hot. I mean, if you were going to hit it, you probably should have hit it about 15 minutes ago. All right, guys, let's go have some fun. Let's do what we do, which is the do. If I could turn back time, I'm gonna find a way.